Come on in, stay a while. We'll talk to Jim Boeheim, Syracuse head basketball coach. What's he make of all of this? He's been at Syracuse for 44 years. They probably weren't going to make the tournament unless they made a run during the ACC tournament, but that, of course, is obviously not going to happen. Also, check on the business side of this with John Oran from the Sports Business Journal on some of these leagues and the trickle-down of what all of this is going to cost. He'll join us coming up a little bit later on as well. Free agency in the NFL, it's still on for next week. The legal tampering starts on Monday morning, and it's a big week. So we'll get an update on that as well. This is a week that will make an indelible mark in sports history. A wave of cancellations starting on Wednesday and continues at just about every level, from the pros to college to high school to youth leagues. And in many ways, sports leagues and college conferences were leaders in taking steps to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Seeing officials pull the Jazz and Thunder off the court on Wednesday after they found out Rudy Gobert had tested positive, and that made it real for people. That was in real time. You're watching something happen, and you realize Rudy Gobert had tested positive. Then his teammate Donovan Mitchell also tested positive. And sports often act as a visible platform for other things happening in society. Hopefully, we'll be able to look back and say everyone did the right thing. And sports also serves as a distraction. We're well aware of that. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen because during this coronavirus outbreak, we were an outlet. But when the coronavirus was intersecting with sports, then that changed everything. And eventually, we'll get back to sports, but everybody takes a seat on the bench now. That doesn't mean the sports world is sitting this one out. The absence is making a louder statement than anything an athlete could make or do on a court or an athletic field. You know, you think back to yesterday, and we had Tom Izzo on, Michigan State head coach, and this was around 10 o'clock East Coast time. And I said, you know, how do you feel about playing this basketball tournament? And he said, you know, the more I'm thinking about it, the more we shouldn't be playing. And then 2 hours later, the Big Ten decided it was not going to play basketball games. The ACC, the SEC. Duke said to the ACC, if you're playing this tournament, we're not playing. That forced their hand. The SEC the same way. And then we get done with the show, and I'm watching Fox Sports 1. My buddy Tim Brando's on the call, and I looked up and I went, wait, they're doing player introductions in the Big East tournament in New York City. Well, somebody's going to step in. The commissioner, Val Ackerman's somebody's going to step in and go, wait, this looks horrible that we're going to play and nobody else is playing. All of a sudden, I see the ref with the ball going out to the center court. I go, no, you can't be doing this. They just tipped, and we're off and running. I went, oh, no. Then you go to halftime, and then, of course, you have to do the obligatory coach interview. Hey, what do you need to do in this second half? And all of a sudden you hear, we decided to cancel the Big East tournament at halftime. And I went, oh, boy. But they eventually did the right thing because I said, let's just stop everything and figure out what we have. Take inventory here. Just figure out what is going on. And I do believe things are going to get worse before they get better. And I know that everybody's, we have the tough guy mentality. Come on, we play through that. Come on, come on. It's just a little flu. We don't know all of the answers here. And until we do, then I think it's very careless, very reckless to go out there. Golf got canceled last night at 10 o'clock. And they're not really interacting with each other. But they did the right thing. Let's cancel it right now. NASCAR hasn't canceled its race coming up this weekend. No fans haven't canceled their race. Golf is going to be canceled for the next 3 events. And then we're going to come upon Augusta, and Augusta is its own governing body. But we have a lot of time in between then to figure some things out, get testing in place. And as a person who works in the ER in Houston, texted me last night to say, please tell people this isn't about young people getting the virus and you can move on with your life or it doesn't affect you. This is about staffing at hospitals that we have to be aware of. That's the most important message you can send to people. Make sure that you're clean, you wash your hands, don't touch your face, and don't be in large gatherings here. But understand this is about staffing. Let's say you have a surgery, you're going in, and somebody, the hospitals are packed because of the coronavirus. it's going to impact you. Not, hey, I'm 25, I don't need to worry about this. Everybody needs to worry about this. And the person who works in the ER said, we make it seem like older people are expendable. Like, hey, just old people die from this. You got to make sure people understand what the truth is. And the staffing is going to be a big issue. A big issue. We all have parents, grandparents. You don't look at them and say they're expendable. So there's a lot of things involved in this. But more importantly, in our world, we're not as much a distraction as we hope to be because we don't have games to talk about. And we'll do our best here. It's sort of, once again, there's no handbook that says, hey, when there's a pandemic, this is what you talk about on your show. We'll try to talk about the things we think are topical, important, try to move things forward. But, the hand-wringing continues here. I heard from somebody last night who works with the CIA. And, it wasn't a great prognosis here. Just what is going on, with shutting down subways at some point. How long is this going to take? Are we going to be in a 60-day period where things are rough? I mean, that's the feeling that people have here because they're not quite sure what's happening.
That's it.
There you go. Feels good.
Yes! Yes!
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I've never been in a worse place and that I can remember, and I'm sure everybody is in the same boat that I'm in.
How did you hear about the tournament being canceled?
We were in the morning going over, looking at some tape of Louisville, which, we didn't like looking at that. It's the worst loss we had this year. And, just looking at that, getting ready and, coming off the best game we played all year. So, had some optimism, obviously, but, you thought it was coming. I think really one of the problems is when the NBA canceled, it kind of pushed everybody a little bit. And the only thing that we have to do this, and there's probably no question about that. But the thing that bothers me with the NBA and baseball and golf, they all can take 30 days off and they can come back and hopefully it'll be good. I mean, they'll be able to. We don't know that. But hopefully 30, 40 days, we'll see what's there, and we'll see maybe we can now go forward. And they all can resume. College athletes are done. They're done. And I knew that when they canceled the tournament, that day the NCAA tournament was over because in a week you're not going to know. 2 weeks, what is it? Maybe a month won't be enough. Maybe it would be 2 months. And irregardless, the college season's over. And for our sport, I look at a team like Dayton. I look at a team that just won their conference tournament in a major upset. And those players are the most excited they've ever been in their life. And now that's all gone.
Gino Auriemma said that maybe we should allow these seniors to be able to come back to play. I don't know if we could do a one-time exemption, Coach.
I think you can do it. The NCAA, as we've found in the past, can do anything they want to do.
Would you be in favor of this?
Yeah, again, we're talking about student athletes. Are we going to do what's right for them? I think it's more true of, especially, remember when the Duke, obviously we don't want to think about it, when the Duke thing happened in lacrosse years, not that long, those kids all came back, I think, or a significant portion of them did. And I think they even won the national championship. I might be off a little bit, but I think they might have, or come close. Yeah, there's precedent for it. I don't see why not. I think in basketball you may have difficulty recreating that. But, I don't see why you couldn't do that.
How are you?
I'm skipping to my loo. What is a loo? Do you know what a loo is? Why is it skipping? I'm skipping because I'm skipping to my time because that's my name. Is there some guy named Lou that once just kind of did a little skip and what is that? I'm being serious. Skip to my loo. I'm feeling good. It's Friday. We're going to have some meat soon. Got some good guests all week. Feeling a lot better. My shirt's a little blousier than it's been, so I may have lost a pound or two. I'm excited about that. But I am going to have a burger and a brat, which I probably shouldn't have.
Hey, Nick, what do you have for me today?
Hey, Dan. Good morning.
Good morning.
6'3", 160. Thank you. Hey, I'm a current senior in college, Division I athlete in Illinois here. And yesterday our school got shut down, announced kind of the plans to go online and everything. It was a hectic day. I still had practice, but took a nap in the afternoon to get away from everything and woke up feeling a little bit better. And then I woke up to about 25 text messages with the news that the NCAA had canceled all the spring championships and my career was effectively over. So it's kind of surreal to go through that, and we're getting through it like everybody else is. But, just kind of my story, my side of things.
What if you had an opportunity to come back and I'm not sure what sport you want to tell me what sport that you play?
Yeah, I'm cross country and track.
Okay, if you could come back for your senior season, one more year of eligibility, would you sign up to do that if you didn't get any scholarship money?
Personally, well, we've actually had this discussion on the team on runs and stuff. Personally, I would not because I've been accepted to medical school, so I'm moving on next year with that. But I do have teammates who have said that they would, if they got the waiver, come back. And we've talked with our coach, and he's kind of said he doesn't really know what's going to happen. You know, this is unprecedented, and the NCAA may give waivers to all the seniors because nobody will have an outdoor track season at this point.
Yeah. Well, good luck with the bigger picture, and that's going to med school. And congratulations on that, Nick. Thanks for joining us and sharing your story.
Thanks, Dan.
That's from this is the Salem Red Sox. They're going to have Nickelback night. And I said I didn't know if we could make it, but if Nickelback was in, then we would show up. They didn't think Nickelback's going to show up. But I said, well, just send me a jersey and I'll fly the colors here. And just got that. Got a care package from the Salem Red Sox, just outside of Roanoke. And it's Nickelback night. They sent me a Nickelback album, vinyl. Who knew? We somehow make the smooth segue to Tom Curran, the Patriots insider for NBC Sports Boston. If you're going to look at the odds here, you're playing favorites here. Who would you pick?
Well, just an aside here, I don't think the level of intensity has to be the same for every team in order for there to be legitimate interest.
Well, I know, but when Jeff Darlington says 8 teams, 8 teams, if I can get him for $17, yeah.
Well, 8 teams, depending upon what hoops I need to jump through. I think that the Niners, again, with the number of people who have jumped on that since Deion Sanders mentioned it, then Florio mentioned it, then I mentioned it, now Mike Lombardi's been riding it like a mule. I think he could be disabused of it really quickly if Kyle Shanahan felt that was something he would do. So, to me, the Niners are an absolute, that's a very narrow hoop to fire through. But I think that there's legitimate interest on the parts of 5 or 6 teams, which would be Chargers definitely, Bucks definitely, Raiders perhaps to a degree, although I was told that Gruden is not going to intensely pursue Brady, but if he calls, he'll listen. Titans, of course. And then I think the Colts are a team that people have dismissed outwardly, but if they're going to be kicking the tires on Phillip Rivers and they're not going to look at Brady, what are we talking about?
Oh, I agree. I said I don't know why the Colts aren't in on Brady because you got a great offensive line, you got a great coach, great GM, you're playing half your games indoors. To me, that if I'm Brady, that would be the place that I would want to play for that team. Maybe I don't want to play in Indianapolis, but I think that's a nice little soft landing spot.
I concur, and I think a lot of GMs and team personnel are lying right now because they do have answers in-house, and there's 2 things there. If they don't get Brady, then they don't want to piss off the guy who was there, and if they don't get Brady, they get to save face, in terms of, this isn't what we were going to try and do anyway. So
let me hit you with this.
I just only had one.
Let me hit you with this in the final minute. What would Plan B be for the Patriots?
Jarrett Stidham.
Oh.
Jarrett Stidham will probably be given every opportunity to win the quarterback job, as far as I can tell. I don't think they're going to go out and spend $15 million on Andy Dalton, carry Brady's $13.5 million, and now have $28.5 million worth of cap money on that position to get from Dalton basically not that much more than they can conceivably get from Stidham for $800,000. I really think that they would, if Brady does not resign, they would be in the market for $5 million quarterbacks as opposed to $15 or $18 million quarterbacks, and I think Stidham would be given every opportunity to win the job.
It's great to talk to you. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
This was way too quick, you know.
I know it was. I feel bad that I was up against the break, and then I took the phone call and the guy getting married, and I took away some of your quality time with us.
Smile going down the aisle.
All right. Thank you, Tommy. Let's bring in Scott Van Pelt. By the way, great work all week long on Wednesday night. You guys did some really great stuff there. During that Dallas game, you guys on your show did a wonderful job. Thanks for joining us, Scotty.
It's my pleasure. And Dan, as someone that truly could understand it, when you go up to do a fill segment, a fill being just as it's advertised, in between games, following the Dallas game in anticipation of the New Orleans-Sacramento game, and then you find that game is canceled, and then your fill segment becomes an hour and something of live, entirely unscripted, no commercial break television. It's something. It's memorable, that's for sure, and obviously the content wasn't what any of us wanted, but we were just trying to give the most updated information that we had, and it was happening truly in real time.
Yeah, I think we're all going through that now in real time where all of a sudden somebody says this sport is postponed, this tournament is canceled, now the Masters is postponed. And I'm starting to wonder, like, what else is left? What is left to happen except for maybe free agency in the NFL is pushed back, and we don't have the NFL draft. But I'm looking at this next this 30-day window, let's say, or 45 or 6. What do you think is next that could happen?
I don't know, and I hesitate to even wonder. I mean, as far as the sports go, Dan, there's nothing left. There's nothing left to postpone. I mean, I was just FaceTiming with my wife, and my kids are down at the beach in Florida, and our sister-in-law said that one of my kids' cousins said, "Hey, you can do our Little League games, so maybe we'll do the Red Sox down in Jacksonville." I mean, I had I'll just say Justin Thomas. So I was going to be coy about it, but he and I were texting back and forth with the players suspended, actually canceled, and he joked that he'd send in video of his practice rounds, and then by the time our text chain was done, we had him and Ricky Fowler playing left-handed with sponsors, and I would wear a hazmat suit. I mean, we're going to have to come up with content and be creative because there's nothing left to postpone. And yeah, I said last night on the show that, and I really do believe this, Dan, that Gobert was the tipping point because he became the urgency of them suspending that game is where it felt like a movie. It's like someone sprinting out on the floor to say, wait, you can't play, and Gobert has it, and it's like it. And so the NBA almost immediately says the season's suspended, and that was the domino that led everything else to happen. If he doesn't test positive, I think right now conference tournaments are playing with no fans. I think they would have continued on. It was inevitable that we were going to run into a stoppage of some sort, but in a weird way, this guy who is pretty reckless and irresponsible and making jokes about it then becomes the face of it, but then maybe can become the face in a good way if it turns out that a week from now or whatever, he's actually healthy, and you go, oh, so wait, you mean you don't just fall over and die? Well, I think we can read that that's the case, but when there's a visible proof of someone having it, and you're like, oh, that's okay, not okay, but it's not a death sentence, then it becomes maybe a positive in that we have a little bit more awareness about it, understanding that the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions really have to be kept safe. But who the hell knows, man? I mean, in real time, we're all just figuring it out, and it's just such a bummer.
Well, I also agree with you on Rudy Gobert. He unintentionally, I think, helped a lot of people. He made it real because you're seeing something, and once again, we go back to real time, and it's like, wait, the Thunder Jazz game is not going to take place. Why? And the fans didn't even know, as the public address announcer says, and drive home safely and visit oklahomacity.com for more information here. And you're going, wait, what just happened? And then Doris Burke was doing the Mavs game, and she said, she just said, I can't focus on this. I can't imagine the Pelicans Sacramento Kings game. Then you're going, wow, like, where is this going? And if Rudy Gobert doesn't, in the Big East yesterday, I go, wait, they're out there. Okay, they're going to do introduction. Wait, the referee has the ball. Wait, they're out at the center. Wait, they're playing? And I went, oh, you guys. And then I go, oh, my God. At halftime, then they canceled. I went, it's just crazy. I mean, there's nothing that will ever compare to this as far as a week. And I've been doing this for 35 years. Like, this is crazy. I hope we never have this again. But it just like it felt like 24 hours was 48 hours.
Yeah, it did. And again, the dominoes is Gobert and the NBA, because once they said we're not doing it, then everybody else that was sort of beneath them, particularly in basketball, on the college side, I'm like, there's just no way they can do it. And I like you, I was just shocked that they moved forward in the Garden, and then for them to get to halftime, and then, hey, St. John's, like, you're nice half. You got a lead over a team that's really good, but I'm sorry, that's the end of it. It was just, and surreal is a word that's getting the work out right now, but it certainly is that. And I know for a fact that a lot of coaches in college were trying to convince the NCAA to postpone rather than cancel. Just give some time to perhaps allow for this to get better and improve. But the logistical challenge with venues and with timelines for players who might not be in college. I mean, so many of these schools, Dan, are going online only. Like, you can't be on campus. So where the hell are you going to practice? And I mean, it sucks, for lack of a more graceful way to put it, but it really sucks, particularly for college basketball players who are seniors or people that were heading to the NBA early, that they don't at least get 40 more minutes together to play. Because, I mean, that's an incredibly abrupt thing. I think of your Dayton Flyers. And I said this last night. I'm crushed for my Maryland Terps. Everyone knows that's where I'm from. I'm more crushed for Dayton than anybody else, because this is probably as good as it'll ever be. And then you don't even get another game. It's really, really horrible.
He's Scott Van Pelt of the Mothership joining us on the program. The Masters game plan, what do you think it is?
I've been talking back and forth with a lot of people this morning, and I was struck by this. If they did this, the Masters prefer the term resources to money, and I would just say, as it relates, we don't have a back and a front. We have a first and a second nine. All the proper terminology. Yes. Well, the resources at their disposal, as it would relate to the medical community, I have to believe are unrivaled. So if they're doing this, I have to believe that it is because they have spoken to the leading medical authorities in the world, who just explained why now would be a bad time. I think that they're one of the rare events in sports that could essentially call their shot. I mean, I know they wouldn't want to trample, the PGA Tour or obviously another major championship and just, play the trump card and just name a date and say, okay, here's where we're playing. And it's like, well, no, actually, we've got another event. I think they would try to work within the framework of, is there a spot on the schedule? But truly, if they said, we're playing on this date in June or this date in September or whatever, everybody'd show up because it's the Masters. But I imagine that for all the resources they have, I don't believe that they have the answer to when this is going to pass and when would even be feasible. But my hope, as someone who loves the event, is that they can sort out a spot on the schedule where it makes sense. But they close their course down during the season for a period of time. Like, it's just closed, and I don't know when logically they'll be able to do it.
I also wondered about, I hate using the word, but I'll use it, the optics of playing golf at the Players' Championship first round, and then all of a sudden late last night, the commissioner says, we're not gonna continue this. I think they could have continued it. No fans there, and but I think it would have looked bad, and I think the PGA Tour was concerned about how it looked instead of we can actually do this, and I don't know if any players are going to have any problem with this.
My guess, Dan, is this. Rory McIlroy, who is not only the reigning champion, not only the number one player in the world, but as thoughtful and grounded an athlete as I think we have in sports right now. When he says, you got to test everybody, I think that sends a shiver down the spine of Jay Monahan, the commissioner, who he wasn't combative in his press conference on Thursday, but he was explaining why they were going to try to play. I think they were just trying to be hopeful, trying to be optimistic. Listen, we're going to try to, we're going to play without fans. We think we can try to protect each other, this and that. But when Rory says that, and then let's say you test the whole field. Given what we are learning about this, almost certainly, whether there are symptoms being shown or not, a caddy, a player, somebody carrying the sign with the player's score on it, somebody out there probably has it. And then once you find out, well, the PGA Tour put the players at risk because so-and-so had this virus. Well, then, and I'm with you, I don't like the term optics, but it certainly doesn't look great if you've carried on and it turns out that this was the circumstance you carried on in spite of. So I just think the more they thought about it, they just thought, you know what, like everybody's hunkering down, we'll join them.
What's the game plan for the next week?
You know Mike McQuaid he was back in the day. He was your guy with Keith on the Big Show, and he's sort of my boss of bosses. And we're trying to figure it out. I mean, I like to think we're a fairly creative bunch, and we can create content in many different ways. But I mean, I'm not a friggin' magician. Like I don't know. Dan, I honestly don't know. I don't know what we'll do. I don't know if we will hit the pause button. And just run games like everything becomes ESPN Class. I don't know. I mean, none of us have ever been confronted with a world where there truly are no games. So we just desperately need to be popping and go nuts. Like, Brady to the Raiders. We can make a day out of that. God
a day? I'm making a week out of that. A month.
If need be. I mean, we could run simulations. I mean, but, listen, we're going to try our best. We're going to try to be a place people can come for a diversion. But if we've got nothing to cover, I mean, I really don't know what it's going to look like.
We were surprised how easy it was to get a hold of you today.
How so? You think I'd be hunkered down?
Yeah. No sports to cover. We figured you were just sitting around not doing anything all by yourself. And we're calling Barkley next.
Well, didn't he? Fine to make sure he's okay. I mean, he's making sure he's all right. Listen, I know. I could be in the middle of anything, and I'd always have time for you guys. You know that.
I called Boeheim. Boeheim's a mess. He's at home. His wife's yelling at him.
We're gonna all be kind of. I think we got nothing. Like that's the biggest thing right now. Is like this is my favorite day. This Thursday, Friday of this week and next week are my favorite days of the year. And now I'm off, and I don't know what to do. I guess I'll read a book.
Great to talk to you again. And once again, tell the staff, your guys, they did a great job this week. Certainly that Wednesday night. That was good TV.
Means a lot, Dan. I appreciate you.
Thank you, buddy. That's Scott Van Pelt.
Yes! 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 Yes!